Rasul, Katim Nabi'in sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that as you open us out, witnessing nothing is worthy of worship except Allah. He is one alone with our partners and associates. And I also give open the ceremony to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as a slave, servant, messenger, and seal of the prophets. Peace be upon the Prophet, upon his descendants, upon his companions, and upon the righteous throughout the world. And peace be unto you. As-salam alaikum. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, Dibla Muslim. We are thankful to Allah, highly glorified to see you once again for allowing us with this to have and experience this wonderful day of Jumu'ah, and this part of the day for the Jumu'ah Salat. We thank him for this blessing, this great day, and we beg for his mercy, and most of all, we beg for his forgiveness, so that we can become strong enough to serve him in a much stronger way. We talked last time about how we made the Exodus, alhamdulillah, out of the month of Ramadan. And the most important part about this month, or that month, was what we worked to develop. And what we worked to develop was taqwa. And that is nothing that we develop and lose. It's something we develop and nurture. We nurture taqwa. In fact, when we look into the Quran, we find in so many different areas Allah talks about this factor. I say factor because it is the factor that protects the life. I want you to remember that taqwa has everything to do with preservation. We talk about when you study creation, you see that it states that the first law of nature is self-preservation. That everything in creation works to preserve itself. If you go after any insect, any animal, if you go to harm the animal, Allah has given some of those animals protective shells. Some of those animals have real fast speed, because everything in creation is designed in such a way that it works to preserve itself. Now it's only the human being who has the free will that can work to become a self-abuser. He can abuse himself so much that he can literally destroy his not just physical self, but his mental capacity. Destroy his emotional capacity. And there's so much that the human being works to destroy his economic life, his family life. He gambles. That's why Allah tell you about gambling. He says that gambling is the scheme of the devil. Because what you do when you gamble, not only do you risk your possessions, you risk your life. People have literally gambled their family treasures away. People have owned businesses that put their businesses in jeopardy because of I want more. So the first thing Allah gave the human being, said that He created the human being, and within the human being, that soul, He gave him taqwa. You read Surah Al-Shams, Allah talks about the soul and the order and proportion given to it, and its enlightenment as to what is right for it and what is wrong for it. Surely he succeeds who purifies his soul. And it talks about فَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَهَا. He has already educated the soul with what it needs to protect itself. So taqwa, remember, is the means for preserving the life. See, the life is so valuable. This life that Allah gave us as a trust is so valuable that He just didn't give us the life and put the life out there. He gave us the life, and then He gave us the means to protect the life. So we went to Ramadan striving to increase taqwa so we can protect the life, so the life can live out the purpose. See, when Allah created you, He gave you purpose. And with all the challenges in the world, you need to protect that purpose. So Ramadan was a time that we work real diligently to increase taqwa so we can preserve the life so it can live out its destiny. Because Allah says in the Quran that He creates everything and He gives it a destiny. He creates everything and He gives it a specific assignment and a purpose. Don't you know your life has purpose? Don't you know just like the big ball of fire in the sky called sun, it has purpose? Rain, sleep, purpose. You have purpose. You have a destiny. And then there's forces working to compete to distract you from reaching that destiny. So Allah says He created the life and He gave the life taqwa as a means of preserving the life. And then there's another verse in the Quran where Allah talks about how He created the human being. How He created the human being, and then from what He created, He made something else. He talks about from the one soul, talks about from male and female, how He created us. And then from that created form, He says now He made something different. And there's two different words that's used there. And one word has everything to do with the creation in its original state. Khalaqa. In its original state, He created that form. And then from what He created, He says now He's taken from what He's creating and He's making something else. Now a word that's used, Ja'alnakum, from that creation, He's making something else. Now if we turn to 49:13, He talks about this. Because some people think it's their creation, it's their class, it's their status, it's their ethnicity that make them noble in the world. Lineage. So that's what they do in many of these countries. They have the king, they have the prince, and they believe this lineage, they believe that's their nobility. But Allah says that the nobility, your real worth, is that you have taqwa. Not your status, not what you've acquired on this journey called life. Because all of that can be stripped from you. And then what is your worth? That's the lesson that Hajj teaches us. Hajj teaches us that when you strip down of nothing, your worth is in your service to Allah. That's the great lesson of Hajj. Of all these lessons, one of the great lessons that you are stripped of everything. Not stripped, but you come there and you throw off all your distinctions, all the ideal of class, sex, where people believe manly is much more superior. But Allah says, no, your real worth, your real nobility is in taqwa. Let's read this verse, where Allah clearly tells us about how He created the human being and then how that human being is to operate and function in the world. O mankind, He first addresses the human being. Ya ayyuhan nas, Ya ayyuhan nas, O man, O social being. See, Nas is the social being. As you interact with people, He lets you know your distinction. O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and a female, and then made you into nations and tribes that you become acquainted with one another. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of Allah is the one that has the most taqwa, that is, consciousness of Allah. And Allah has full knowledge and is well acquainted with all things. So He said, He is this social being who must operate in the world. That's why you have all the supremacists, white supremacy. See, in America, you'll find a force that moved in America feeling that they were better because of skin pigmentation. And then that image of white supremacy circulated all throughout America, and because of the adverse thinking of the white supremacists, they use that force to oppress other people. They do it today. Lynching, killing, even police officers who have been indoctrinated with that kind of thinking of supremacists kill little black men, little black boys. And they have killed some sisters. Because of the ideal of believing that I am supreme because of color. That's why Allah said, no. It's not the nation or the tribe. It's not your ethnicity. It's not your status, but it is your regardfulness for Allah. And when you have that kind of healthy regard and healthy respect for Allah, you respect His creation. How are you going to have a healthy respect for Allah and then you begin to abuse what He created? So taqwa is the means of preserving the life, because you understand that the life has meaning and purpose. So he says, verily, the most honored of you is the one that has the highest level of taqwa. Not your social status, not what group you come from, but how conscious of you are of the need to have a healthy relationship with the one who created you. There's nowhere in the world you can really have a healthy relationship with Allah and then abuse and mistreat His creation. The further you go from Allah, the further you go from the real worth and value of His creation. And the closer you get to Allah, the closer you get to His creation. I mean, that just right there is almost like simplicity. The further your spirit is away from Allah, the further you're going to be from seeing the worth of what He created. So he says, the most honored amongst you in the sight of Allah is he or she who has the highest level of taqwa. These are people who are working to protect the sacredness of their life. See, when Allah creates something, it's valuable. In fact, when He creates something, it's sacred. That's why when I talk to you about the Hajj, when you put on the Ikram, you're going into a sacred state. See? This is not just faddish. When you put on the Ikram, you take off your national garb and you put on the two sheets, you go into a sacred state, a real spiritual state. Because it's not the things that's been holding you up any longer. You're not living behind the mask anymore. See, people move in society, they live behind masks, status, wealth, job. Those become the masks that people hide behind, and you never really see the real human being. They hide behind their possessions. But when you take off the national garb, when you take off that which gives you your status in society, and you put on the two pieces of cloth that covers your private parts, you begin to see a human being. A human being that's not defined or described by things. A human being who is described by his or her humanism, by their decency, their morality, their respect, their love, their kindness. You begin to define them by those internal qualities. That's why Allah said the best amongst you is the one who has taqwa. And if you really, really, really have taqwa, you're going to be a regardful person. You're going to be a respectful person. You're going to be a decent person. You're going to be a loving person. Because you love what Allah created. You don't hate what Allah created. You love it because you know it's here for purpose. So if it's here for purpose, you work to preserve it, to safeguard it. Because it has a divine reason for being in existence. That creature is not here haphazardly. When Allah creates, He creates by design. That's why He said when He creates a thing, He gives it a destiny. It is moving towards something. And it's going to have challenges and struggles and disappointments as it moves towards its destiny. A starting point and a stopping point. Verily, the most honored among you in the sight of Allah is the one who has taqwa. And that's what we move out of Ramadan with. We make the exodus out of Ramadan with a high level of taqwa, regardfulness, and a high level of protecting the sacredness of life. It's sacred. So you put on the ikram, and then you go into what is called the haram. See, the haram is the masjid that holds Kaaba. And everything in that atmosphere is regardfulness for Allah. When they make the circulation around the taqwa, everything is about pronouncing Allah. Oh Allah, here I am. You're making this circulation, and it's nothing but energy and power. You can feel the spirit and the power as people circulate, make those circulations around the Kaaba saying Allah's name. So you move into this sacred state, and then you go into a sacred place. You go into the haram. Now we're going to be moving into the Hajj season very shortly. But there's some significant points about that experience. That even on that experience, you have a journey. And on that journey, you begin at the haram, at the Kaaba, but your journey is towards Arafat. And on that journey, there's some things you're going to go through. There's going to be some ups and there's going to be some downs. There's going to be some challenges. There's going to be some shortcomings. There's going to be some fears and insecurities. And I've seen some people get terrified and ask the question, what brought you here? See, if it's your faith that brought you on this ultimate journey, then your faith got to push you through. Because it becomes overwhelming with numbers of people. Some people have never been amongst those numbers of people moving in one direction. But it's your faith that brought you there. But he said he created everything and it has a destiny. The Hajj itself has a destiny, and the destiny is to get to Arafat. Muhammad the Prophet ﷺ said, where there's no Arafat, there's no Hajj. And Arafat is in the same word where Allah says, you become acquainted with one another. You get to know one another. He is the creation from one single pair of a male and female. That's what he said he created you from. And then the word goes on, the verse goes on, and then he made you into nations and tribes, and all these nations and tribes have something valuable to bring to the world. The Mexican, the Chinese, the Pakistani, the person from Jordan, the Egyptian, the African, all of them have something to bring to the world. Something unique. But it says from the very premise, man, nas, social being. And then you grow. You grow into recognizing the human family. You move from your smallness as your little group. See, that's what Hajj teaches. Hajj teaches that you become global and broad in your thinking. You don't think of your little narrow concerns or your group. He says, lita'arafu. And lita'arafu has everything to do with the becoming acquainted, to get to know sharing information. That's why there's so many problems with people amongst race that don't know each other, have been taught lies about each other. That's why I tell you about this whole idea of white supremacy. They've been taught lies about themselves, believing that they are supreme. And that idea of supremacy have moved to not just dominate America, but to try to dominate all throughout the world. But Allah says that you become acquainted. Get information. The more you know about a person, the less you are, on edge about them. The more you get to know a person, the more a little more comfortability sets in. And then I can find out what you have to offer to me and what I have to offer to you. Because see, Allah made all these different nation tribes because all of them have something special to bring to the human family to make the world work. So you develop these relationships. That's why they have all these countries. They have to have these relationships in order for the world to work. They get oil from different parts of the world, not just America. Get food from other parts of the world. So you have to have these relationships. So Allah says, "They tired of food that you become acquainted to get to know one another." So you make your journey on Hajj. The destiny is Arafat, and Arafat has everything to do with acquaintance. Don't you know on that journey, you have to go to Jamarat? Don't you know Jamarat symbolizes the fact that you have to work Shaitan out of your life? The Jamarat. These big pillars, cemented pillars. And you just take a little pebble and you toss the pebble towards Jamarat, showing it don't take a whole lot to defeat Shaitan. Allah gave you power. You take a small pebble and you throw it at that image. That you have more power over Shaitan, but Shaitan is working to distract you from your destiny. He created everything and he gave it a destiny. I've seen people on Hajj almost give up. They go on toward their destiny, but Shaitan done worked on them. And doubt and fear sets in, but they forget the fact that, why am I here? Faith brought me here. That's why Hajj is the last pillar. It's something you grow up to, you grow into. It's not the first, second, or third. It's the last that you build yourself up for that. It's so powerful of an experience that Allah said you only have to do it one time. You don't do it 5, 10 times. You do it as many as you want. But one time is enough. That's how powerful the experience is and how impacting it would be on your life. But you got a destiny. You're trying to make it to Arafat. And Arafat is the big plain, big field. And I'm telling you, if there's 1 million people there on Hajj, 1 million got to make it to Arafat. If it's 2 million, 2 million has to struggle to make it to Arafat. You'll find people being carried. They're determined to reach their destiny because they understand the very purpose of that experience. And it shows you the unification of humanity, the bringing together of the human family. But Allah says in that experience, taqwa is what's going to protect you. That's all you have is this spiritual experience. It's not about things. And that's what Allah is teaching us. It's not about things. Those things have their place. But we have to get into the human being because it's about a soul-to-soul connection. A soul-to-soul connection. I want to get into the soul of the human being. And that's how you experience a person. You get into the inside of that person. So the verse says acquaintance, to become knowledgeable. And then you don't let the things you have, you don't let your status, you don't let your wealth make you believe that that's what gives you status in the world. They give you status socially. But with Allah, what gives you real status is taqwa. And that's what we're working to increase taqwa so we can be better human beings working to preserve the sacredness of life. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Assalamu alaikum. And it's all about time. As we read in the Quran, in Surah Al-Asr, Allah says, as time progresses, wal asr, as time moves forward, and time is very, very valuable, essential. Some people think about time, they think about controlling time. I've never seen a human being control time. The only thing you can control, the only thing you can manage, they talk about time management, the only thing you can manage is yourself within the time that you've been given. The only thing you can manage is yourself. Isn't that what we learned through Ramadan, how to manage ourselves? From sunup to sundown, we had the greatest experience of managing ourselves. That's the only way you're going to make it in the world. The only way you're going to make it in the world, you have to learn how to better manage yourself. Manage your mind, manage your spirit, manage your appetite, manage your urges, manage your energy. When you begin to manage yourself, then you begin to be much more effective as time progresses. So he says, as time progresses, as time moves forward, because verily the human being is in a state of loss. Verily the human being is retarded. They have retarded their own development. Now when you think of time, you think about phases, past, present, future. That's time. And time has everything to do with how these events begin to come after each other. See? As you think about your life, all your experiences behind each other, teenage years, toddler, infancy, adult, all these experiences, all these events is how you measure time. But when you begin to look at all those events and all those phases, you can see how man has become lost. Why? Because we go back to the very premise, no taqwa. Low level taqwa. Not really, really conscious of Allah. And because they're not, when they become lost, they become abusive. Look all over the television. I mean, make you want to cry. It's so painful when you begin to see how the human being has become lost because they have been disconnected from Allah. When you become disconnected from Allah, you become the abuser of yourself and others. Child abuse, I mean, just crazy. Senior citizen abuse just at an all-time high. The indecency, the immoral behavior. I mean, just at an all-time low. See, Muhammad the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the principles of the prophet of old was where there's no shame, do as you will. See, I grew up in a time, and many of you have as well probably. I'm sure you have. When people live with shame. Certain things they just wouldn't do because somebody would say, you need to be ashamed of yourself. That don't happen anymore. Because in America particularly, it's just so much freedom, freedom to do everything and anything. As time has progressed, you've seen the human being regress. In fact, he probably haven't even regressed, because regress suggests he is going back to a state that is almost undeveloped or primitive. And if we regress and go backward, that would be better. Because as we go back in time, these events, people had a little more concern. People was a little more conscious. They had shame. All on the television. I looked the other day, I saw Jerry Springer. I said, wow, they still running Jerry? And ain't no shame on Jerry Springer. All kind of court cases that people should be embarrassed, and they come on there like it's a good thing to do, because there's no shame. The prophet said it's hayya, where there's no shame. Because see, shame is the mechanism that reminds us that we've gotten off course. That's what Allah instilled in the human being. There's a mechanism that says, now you know that's not right. That's why a little child, you ask a little child does something wrong, they can't even look at their shame. Look down. Got a little shame. Shame protects you. And when there is no shame, people do almost anything. So as the verse says, as time progresses, walasa, innal insana lafi khusr. Verily the human being is in a state of loss. Lost souls. We talked before about the things. The Bible asks the question, and what would profit a man, what would profit a human being if they gained the world but lost their soul? People have lost their soul. Another verse in the Quran, Allah says, and be not like those who forget about Allah, and He calls them to forget about their own soul. As time progresses, the human being has moved further and further away from Allah. And as they move further away from Allah, they've moved further away from each other. That's why today people would tell you, mind your business. See? And you really got to say, well, that is your business. But socially, we have to be concerned about the businesses of others, because if we're not concerned about the business of others, their business will eventually affect our lives. So he says, as time progresses, verily the human being is in a state of law. Except those who believe. So here's the distinction. Here's a group of people where their faith says there's certain things I just can't do because I'm on a mission to build up life. So I'm in the business of building and restructuring life, because that life has purpose, even if that life has been beaten down. And then they realize in their faith, Allah is the one who believes. I tell you before, I used to think about that. Allah is the believer. Al-Mu'min, He's the believer. What? Believe? Who does Allah believe in? You have to recognize that Allah created you and He believes in you. That's powerful right there. See, Allah gave you life, gave you purpose, and He believes in you. The question becomes, how much do we believe in what Allah gave us? Because through time, we can begin to release what He gave us, because we realize that He said that He creates everything and then He gives it a destiny. He gave you for a purpose, and you're moving towards your destiny. But He believes in you. How much do you believe in yourself? Except those who believe. And they do good. Their faith inspires them. to work for the renovation and elevation of people. Their faith inspires them to serve people, except such as believe and they do good, enjoying one another in truth, and encourage one another in patience. Truth, powerful force in the creation. We have to speak the truth, we have to live on the truth, we have to stand on the truth. The truth is so powerful that people work to cover up the truth every single day. I love the verse in the Quran where it says, and we have brought you the truth, but most of you hate the truth. And the reason why you hate the truth is because the truth is going against your urges. That's why there's certain forces, institutions, people who work to keep people from truth, because the more informed the people are of what is true, the more free they become. See, when you lie to people, you misinform people, you lock them up. But the more people expose the truth, it's a form of liberation. That's why the Bible says, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It's a liberating force. So we have to speak the truth. Mama said, peace be upon him, said, speak the truth, for truth leads to paradise. Don't tell lies, for lies lead to hell. I'm talking about conditions on earth, not just when you die. When you start speaking the truth, you live a better life. You start lying, and you're classified as a liar, you live a troubled life. No one can trust a liar. So he said, accept those, here's the distinction, accept those who have faith, those who serve people, those who promote truth, and those who understand the power of patience, they're not lost. They have principles they're standing on. They're building their life on strong principles, truth, patience. Those are powerful forces that you can structure your life on. If you don't have patience, Shaitan working on you. Patience means you got staying power. Patience don't mean that you're just waiting. Patience means as you move and continue your journey, you got patience waiting on things to get better as you work to make them better. Some people, when challenges become, when times get tough, they just throw up. They can't hold on. They lose everything. Some of them lose their faith. They lose everything. But see, if you want to get stronger, Allah going to give you a challenge. If you want to become more knowledgeable, Allah will give you problems so you can fix those problems and get the knowledge that you need to make it in the world. This ain't easy, but it's doable. So we thank Allah, highly glorified to see, for allowing us once again to be here for this wonderful part of the day of Salat al-Jumu'ah, by which we serve Him, submit our will to Him, and grow into becoming more disciplined human beings who recognize that we have a great purpose to serve Him and serve society. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.